There we go. It's official. Amazing. Well, thanks everyone for being here. In case you've forgotten who I am, my name is Michelle Dittmer. I run the Canadian Gap Year Association. So Ethan is Michelle of the South. I am Ethan of the North. We are one and the same. We do very, very similar work and have seen so much alignment in what's happening in Canada and in the US, with some slight cultural differences, some slight COVID differences, but overall the trend is moving very much in the same direction. So I'm thrilled to be able to bring the next evolution of gap years to you guys today and talk a little bit about the Student of Leadership and Humanity Award, which is might be a little bit of a new concept to you. So we're really going to take it from the very, very baseline, give you a really good overview of the theory behind it, but as well the practicality of it, and understanding a little bit why this is happening in the way that it is and how it can benefit individual gap year students. So that's kind of my overview for the day today. At any time, feel free to jump in with questions. I have a formal presentation, but it's more to keep me on track than to actually give you guys something to look at, because I can go on for hours and I know we've got lots going on in our lives today. So I'll try and keep it pretty succinct, but don't hesitate to unmute yourself or pop something in the chat. I will try and stay pretty aligned with that. So I'd love to know what you think your current knowledge of the Student of Humanity Award is on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being the only thing I know about it is that I signed up for this webinar, and 10 being like, I actually created it myself. So you can either hold up a finger or pop it in the chat, whatever you're most comfortable with on a scale of 1 to 10. Where is your knowledge level at? And it gives me a chance to take a sip. Facilitation hacks. There you go. Free lesson for you. Amazing. Okay, perfect. That sounds like a pretty good split, but we will get you all caught up to speed. So you will all be at least an 8 by the end of this presentation, if not a 10. That's my goal. So we'll be checking back with you at the end to see how I did on my particular goal there of getting you all up that far. Ethan, anything else to add at this point before I start sharing my screen?
No, just gratitude for the patience of everyone that it's taken so long to get here. But honestly, Michelle, you've done a great job. So all of the accolades are yours. So lead us away. I'm excited to get it all in this formal, buttoned up way. Go for it.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. I'm new to the Canva presenting, so bear with me if this doesn't go exactly as planned, but it's a new fun toy for me. So here we go. So really we're coming together to talk about this new award, but I guess we need to really start kind of who am I? I gave you a little bit of a background, but we've been around for quite a while. Started out as a for-profit called My Gap Year over a decade ago and made the transition to the nonprofit world in 2017. And we support students in so many different ways. And the latest evolution is the Student of Leadership and Humanity Award, which we ran through our first pilot group during the pandemic, which was an absolute thrill and pleasure to be able to support these independent gappers in a very new way. And we're excited to see that grow and expand now that we've gone through that initial cohort. So that's just a little bit of tiny bit of background about who we are. But what is the Student of Leadership and Humanity Award, besides a really, really long title that took us months and months and months to come up with? Is that it's actually a way to recognize individuals. So GYA has done an incredible job at creating standards for programs, for counselors, and really starting to formalize this world of the gap year. And there was a missing piece for the individual is how can we give them recognition for the growth and development and learning that we see, that we know occurs as people who work with these students on a daily basis, we see that transformation. But quite often these students either don't see it in themselves, or they're unable to really clearly articulate how they have grown and changed and what skills they've acquired. So sometimes they can speak really well to what the experience was all about, but that formalization, using it in a way that is positive in their career development, in their applications to college or university, in their applications to jobs, that formalization of that growth was something that was a missing piece. So that's what this award is really designed to do, based on basically the model from the Duke of Edinburgh Award, if you're familiar with that. There is a loose framework that allows students to pick activities that they want to do based on different pillars, and we'll get into that in a second. And then through that, they can earn this award. So it's a non-competitive award. There's no limit on who can get it. As long as you meet the criteria, you can earn it. And it's something that you can then use to further yourself later on down the line. So really it's that validation. It's a tool for capturing things that happen on your gap year. For some people, it can also be a framework. So those who are leaning a little bit more towards that independent gap year, and how do you fill your year? What are some of the milestones that you should be achieving? This is a way to give them some traction and some guidelines in terms of how are they going to be able to move themselves forward and track their progress. And then it also starts to build the gap year community, and people can start to recognize this award amongst their peers. And the eventual goal is to also see it being recognized by post-secondary institutions and have them either PLAR against it, provide credits, scholarships, those things, as we move forward in those conversations with the post-secondary. So that's really where we would like to see it move, but we're really starting with the value for the individual and helping them move forward. But if you are a fan of Simon Sinek, you always have to start with why. So why do we need this as an industry? Again, it's to raise the credibility of the gap year pathway, to have some sort of formalization that is really going to help move the whole movement forward. So the more that we can get in front of more people, the more conversations that can be had, the more employers are saying, what is this Student of Leadership and Humanity Award? Tell me more about that. We can start to raise gap years as a movement through the individuals, as well as the programs that are running and the college programs that are adopting. This is just another channel that we can really start to amplify the true value of what's happening for gap students. And another thing that we can use this for is to differentiate those who took a year off from those who took an intentional gap year. And there is a difference. Some people take a year off and they sit on the couch. And if you are looking strictly at a resume that just says gap year, or there's just a blank year, we don't necessarily know who was quite intentional with their time and what type of development happened there. So the goal is to provide a little bit of a distinction there and give people something to work towards as they are working on there. And a lot of conversations I've had with parents, also, this is something that can be a nice, strong tool to help parents get on board with this. So often when parents say, well, what's my kid going to get out of their gap year? And you can wax poetic about independence and self-confidence and real life skills and go on about all of the transferable skills. And they always come back with, yeah, but what are they going to get? So we live a little bit in a transactional world where people they want to receive something. And this is a way that might help just tip the scales for those parents who are a little bit hesitant. It's like, well, no, you're actually working towards this award, which will be a designation that you can then use to your advantage in the future. So to help appease that, this is another tool in our back pocket. And for those working on their independent gap years, really giving them that a little bit of focus on how they can really live that out, or those who are working on short-term programs and want to fill in some of the gaps around their shorter programs, some of the content here can really be fleshed out into something a little bit longer and larger. But really, it's not exclusive to those planning independent gap years. Those who are registered in programs, a lot of the programming that exists out there will check off some of the pillars and the requirements, and that will become very evident when we slip into looking at those individual pillars. But just to give you an idea, that's kind of where this idea originated and how it's progressed up until now. So any questions? I've been talking for a while. And I probably will answer a lot of your questions, but I'm also happy to take a pause and see if there's any other questions there.
Michelle, one of the things that I really love about sort of what this is I oftentimes use the term, part of our job at the Gap Year Association is to demystify the gap year for students, because it's not a one size fits all. Everything else up until this point in their educational pathways has been largely formulaic. You do this, then you do the next thing, then you do the thing after. And gap years are not, they don't fit nicely into any of those boxes. So it's what I love about it is it's effectively creating a roadmap for that massive number of students who are doing an independent experience, but for whom we have no way to track.
Yeah, and I think two things that you say really I want to kind of elaborate on. Number one is that it gives them, I would say, a roadmap, but not a GPS. We're not telling them when to turn left, when to turn right. We're saying here are some waypoints along the way that will help you track your progress, that will give you a direction to head in, but you can achieve those however you want. So it was really designed with flexibility in mind. So whether you're doing your gap year from home, or you're doing it abroad, or you're working, or you're volunteering, or you're participating in a travel program, whatever that is, this is still achievable to anybody under there. So it provides a lot of flexibility while also giving those gentle checkpoints along the way that help them to move forward. So I think that's a really important part. And there was something else, but I completely forgot it because I was so into that first answer. So it'll come back to me, I promise.
The same thing.
Oh dear. Okay, so we'll hang out here and we'll continue on. And if you have questions, like I said, just jump in with them. So in order to earn this award, things that the individual students need to do is they need to create a gap year plan. Now, we're not saying this has to be cast in stone, that is exactly what they want to do. It's just for us to evaluate and to ensure that there's intentionality behind it. Part of the skill of being a grown-up is being able to have that foresight, to do the research, to think intentionally about what are your goals and where are you heading and how do you get there. So it's, again, very, very flexible in terms of what that looks like, but we need to see that intentionality. The second one is the proof of pillars, and you'll see in the center of that, or I guess the inner wheel, those are all the pillars. So it starts with who am I? So really an exploration of what are your values? What are your strengths? Who are you as a person? Because sometimes in high school, we don't really have that opportunity, or we've been pigeonholed. So that self-exploration is a real large piece for them. The next one is my wellness. So really exploring holistic wellness. What do you need to be well in all elements of your life, or all aspects of your life? And really encouraging them to explore that. Finances, we know that financial literacy is often a big question mark. So here we're not necessarily talking about all of your financial decisions. We start a little bit more basic than that. We talk about your relationship with money. So is money the root of all evil? Is money the ultimate goal? What does that look like? And once you have really articulated what your relationship with money is, then you can pick that up from there and then start investigating some of the more strategic things when it comes to money and your relationship with it. We have my future. So this is looking at university and college pathways, career pathways, and just starting to think what your next steps after your gap year are going to be. We have mentorship. So each student will have to find their own mentor. This allows them to build the skills that they can then take with them in the future. So they can reach out to any of the wonderful Gap Year alum programs that are out there, like Gap Yearly. They can use their counselors, whatever that is, but finding a mentor is part of the requirements. And then the final one is an independent project. So this is based on one of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And it can be as large or as small as the individual would like. So this could be things that we saw last year was like an afternoon picking up garbage. It could be very simple and small like that, or it can be the basis of your entire gap year. If you're really into social justice, maybe you want to dedicate your entire gap year to putting on a large fundraiser, or invoking policy change within your own municipality. Whatever it might be, you can choose the scale of what that might be. So it gives them that opportunity. And for each of those pillars, what they need to do is they need to complete some sort of independent activity, and then allows them to submit what we're calling a life lesson. So some people back away from the word reflection. I know all of us here, we embrace that word, and we know what it means and how powerful it is. But for some young people, that can be a little bit of a turnoff. So we're talking about life lessons for each of the pillars. So what are you taking forward through the rest of your gap year and then beyond your gap year? So really looking to see that they're able to close that experiential learning cycle. And if you do everything at a base level, it will take approximately 40 hours to complete all of the requirements. So that it can be done in a weekend. You want to sit down and blitz through it all, by all means, go ahead. It'll be one hectic weekend, but you can do it. Or if you wanted to draw it out over 12 months, 15 months, whatever that looks like for you, that would be pretty much where it would be. So I see Jason's comment here, who's looking at monitoring and assessing if they have met their requirements. So you are one step ahead of me. So I will take you through the portal and show you, but essentially once they've completed the activity, there is a questionnaire that you click on, and that will take you to a portal through CanCred Factory, which is a digital badge organization that has the very specific questions and any uploads that need to happen. And that comes to a review panel. So right now that is me, but once things grow, it will become larger. And there is a list of the specific criteria in order to be approved for that badge. And once they complete it, once it has been approved, they earn a digital badge. And I'll talk a little bit in a second about what that looks like. Great question. Cool. How are we feeling? You okay? I haven't bored you to death. Thanks, Julia. Can always count on you. Okay, now I got to figure out how to move forward here. There we go. So I talked about this pretty briefly, so I'll kind of blitz through this to make sure we got lots of time for questions. But for each of the pillars, the goal is to help them develop skills, not necessarily to do hand holding, but these are some of the things that we've noticed through research that we're lacking in young people, and some things that are underexplored in high school. So we've already kind of talked about that, and we can continue to move forward there. When it comes to mentorship, again, like we said, it's about helping them develop the skills to identify mentors, to reach out to them. We have some great templates on how to talk to, how to reach out and invite somebody to be your mentor. We've got little detours if your mentorship relationship is not going well. How do you gracefully bow out and find another, and really help them to identify what a healthy mentoring relationship looks like. When we look at the UN Sustainable Development Goals, like I said, large or small, could be international, could be hyper-local, basically anything that you could possibly want. And we provide information on the UN SDGs, as well as project management tools to help them get those projects up and off the ground. And in Canada, there's some funding available for people who want to do it, as well as through Global Changemakers. They also have a granting program internationally available. So if students are really keen on this, there is some funding that could get their projects up and off the ground, and we make those connections as well. So for each of those pillars, you can see there is a digital badge that is awarded. And once all 7 have been earned, then they are granted the larger overall award. So you can see these are some images of what they are, and they correspond with each of the pillars. So the pillars names on the inside are a little bit more student-centric, and the badges are a little bit more based around some of the skill sets that employers might be looking for. So it's the same concept, just with a little bit of a shift in language to make sure that it is a tool for employability and other useful tools to the student in the long run. So for those of you who are not familiar with a digital badge, this is a step much deeper than a certificate. So in the olden days, we used to hand out certificates or paper, maybe calligraphy and a name on there, but it was very, very two-dimensional. There was nothing attached to it. Once things got a little more sophisticated, anybody could print one out on their printer. And this is the next level of that. So it has much, much more detail built into it. So at the very surface level, it is an image. It is a digital image that you can put on your social media. You can put it on your LinkedIn profile. So it does have a visual appeal. It's very transferable. You can move it around. You can show it in many, many ways. But the true value in it is that it's verifiable. So that means that when you click on it, it will show you who issued the badge, when it was issued, who it was issued to, if there's an expiry date. For these ones, there isn't. It also holds evidence within it. So when they fill out those questionnaires, the answers to those are actually embedded in the digital badge. So if somebody really wanted to understand what your project management badge was all about, it would show you the very, very specific criteria in order to earn the badge, but it will also hold the specific information or evidence about your UN Sustainable Development Goal project. So if you uploaded photos or newspaper articles or the plan for your project, all of those would be embedded within the badge itself. So it has a lot more value. So people who are curious can dig in and can really, really look at it. The other piece about it that's really cool is that it can be endorsed. So similar to on LinkedIn, when people endorse you for the skills that you have, these specific badges can be endorsed by associations or organizations or individuals. So these badges will be endorsed by the Canadian Gap Year Association and the GYA. And then if there are other partners that want to come on board and say, yes, this is a skill that's valuable, and yes, the people who earn this badge exemplify that particular skill, we can add more people on there as endorsements as well, which will raise the value of the certification and of all of the digital badges as well. So there's your digital badges 101. So I'll give you a digital badges badge afterwards. Badging for badging. So super high level when it comes to how do you get involved in this? What does this look like? There are two options for individuals who want to jump on board. There is the DIY. So this is one where they get access to all the resources. They can do it at their own pace. And it's the same credentials out the other end, basically very, very self-guided. And there is an email support system through that. And that one is very, very inexpensive. We're making it accessible to people as much as they can. If the $50 is too much, simple email will allow us to find a scholarship for them in order to make it accessible to everyone. Now, if they want a level up in support, we do have a supported version. And what this one is it allows them to be part of a Discord server, which is an online chat platform that all the kids these days are on, and allows them to build community with other people and ask questions and just be part of a community. We also have monthly social events. These are things like book clubs or movie nights or virtual escape rooms or trivia nights, whatever that happens to be, as well as workshops. And those workshops are selected by the community. So I'm running one in a couple of weeks on entrepreneurship for the group of Canadians that are in it right now. So they get to select what are some of those like adulting 101 or interest type workshops that they want to attend. And those are all optional is what I like to say, as well as office hours for support. So beyond just the help desk email system, they do have access to booking calls with a gap year expert of some kind. Now, all that being said, for either one of these, I like to say that it's like a gym membership. So when you sign up for the gym, you could not go at all. And you know what the result is of that. You get what you put in. For some people, they like to go and they really like to be that lone wolf. They like to go and they do their own free weights. They jump on the treadmill and like, that's their thing. That's where they're comfortable. And it can be done like that. And then you get the other people when they sign up for their gym membership, they attend all of the fitness classes, the spinning classes, the aerobics classes, the whole shebang. They show up when there's like a grand opening and there's pizza. They're there. There is an opportunity for students like that who are interested in more of a social element as well. So it really is a choose your own adventure. Nothing is mandatory. It is up to the individuals to move themselves forward through this and to pick and choose what are the resources that are going to best suit them. And they'll learn that as things progress throughout the year. Now, if they aren't logging into the system, we do have some automations that will give them a little digital poke and reminder, hey, we haven't seen you in a while. What's up? How are things going? Do you need any help? Just encouraging them to move along, but this is not a handheld process. This is really teaching them to have that autonomy, to have that responsibility, and we will be gentle guides along the side, but really leaving a lot of that responsibility up to the student. So if you want to talk about who are the type of people that get in this, we talked about the lone wolf. So they're really needing a little bit of structure. They really want to do it on their own. I call the next one the level upper, or the Super Mario that's always looking to level up. And maybe they're looking for that credential. We've got folks that are consultant supported. So maybe they are working alongside one of you and looking for something else to supplement their year. Maybe they've got a break between experiences. Maybe they are doing, they're working for a good chunk of their year, and maybe they want something to go along and enhance that work term, whatever that could look like, or program enhancement. So a lot of the GAP programs out there, you can probably see and think in your mind which ones check off some of those boxes in terms of self-discovery or UN Sustainable Development Goal project. A lot of those things will happen and naturally, and so they will have a couple of those boxes already checked, and they may just want to continue on and receive the full benefit of the award by completing the ones that are maybe not necessarily covered within those existing programs. So lots of different ways to do it. So I want to give you guys some space to ask some questions and really think about what is your place in this movement. So how, given this baseline information, how can you see that this might serve you and serve some of the students that you serve? But I know that there was a couple of questions about what this actually might look like. So I can show you the existing portal here. For those of you who are curious. So this is last year's portal. So some of the branding is a little bit dated, but you'll see when they get access to the portal, right across the top of the screen is all of the different pillars. And then for each of the pillars, there are resources available to them. So for the independent project, we'll start with a very brief introduction, and we talk about finding your passion. And there are lovely videos on the UN Sustainable Development Goals. How do you define your project? And come on, internet, you can do it. Oh, you're going to do the download. So there's lots of downloads for them in there. Okay, get out of here. There we go. So lots of downloads, project design and management, tools and resources for them. So here are some other resources that they can use, some tips for success. And then here is the how did it go? So this is the completion component. And they can click on this, and this is the portal for applying for the project management badge. So it gives a little background. Here is the criteria that's listed publicly. And then here is the application process. So you'd fill in your name, your email address, and then the questions that are required for you to earn that badge. And then you submit your application, and that comes into my back end. Then I have to read through that, make sure that they are fulfilling all of the criteria, and then it will issue them a badge out the back end. So that is super, super fun, super helpful for them. And then I also can show you quickly the Discord server from last year. So in the Discord server, let's jump into there. You'll see all sorts of different channels that people were talking about. This is the rules section, introduction.
Still in the project management. I don't know if you have to change your share screen.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
I did that just the other day myself.
Yeah, well, I try not to share my whole screen because there's too many tabs open. I had a student actually call me out on it. He's like, Michelle, how many tabs do you have open? I was like, you could only see one window. I have 5 windows with that many tabs. So sorry about that. Yeah, so you can see here's all the introductions of folks that joined the program. They got to know each other, and then they started having all sorts of different chats and really developed a little bit of a community there, which was pretty fun and cool and nice to see. So there's a little bit of the back end as well, but I've been talking for a long time, and I'm sure you have lots of questions, thoughts, other things that you maybe want me to cover that weren't so clear. So I will stop talking and allow you guys some space to get those questions in.
I have a question. So is the Student of Leadership and Humanity Award available to students of any nationality, or is it limited to Canada and the States?
No, so it's available to everyone. The goal is to get to this as widely spread as possible, because the more we can get it out there, the more value it will have. So the way that it's currently going to operate is that if the applicant is coming in through the US, the badge will be issued by GYA. That will be the official stamp on it. If it's coming in from Canada or elsewhere, then it will come through the Canadian Gap Year Association, just to streamline and to balance out numbers. Hopefully, that's the goal there.
Great, thank you.
All right, I think I have a not super formed question, but it's more of like an opening for discussion around, like, I mean, most of us on the call are counselors or consultants. I know consultants is the official term now, right, Elizabeth? Yep. So what is the best way that you see, oh, hold on a second. Yes, you can have a piece of paper. I will get you a piece of paper in a second. That
we're living the same life, Julia.
Right. So what is the best way that counselors can support funneling students into this program? Gosh, so now the phone is ringing. Because I feel like this is like, for example, like in the past, I've had like relationships with other organizations that have given me like access to an online platform that has offered like pre-departure like support and stuff like that. And I've covered the cost of that in my, like I've wrapped it into my consulting fee. So do you feel like, do you have any sense of the best way for us to be partnering with this award so that we can maximize how many students opt into it?
Yeah, I think if you wanted it to become part of the package that you offer, if you see the value in it, like I see the value in it, and Ethan sees the value in it, and you want to roll it into your program, we can definitely figure all of that out. That's my life. We could definitely figure that out, and we can make sure that we give you access to being able to issue it super easily, so it doesn't have to necessarily go through all the process, and we can make that very possible. The other way that I see it working is that if people come to you and they're not a fit for you, whether that is budgetary reasons or they're looking for something a little bit more independent,
right.
Being great. I don't think this is going to be a fit. It's not going to work out. I know you're still keen on your gap year. Here's a great resource that might fit what you're looking for in terms of budget, in terms of experience, and giving that as an option as well. So I think either way works really well. I think that the counselors or consultants have a really unique position to be able to be that additional support for them, be that mentor, be the one that's holding their hand a little bit more, and checking in with them through your regular check-ins. Well, how are you making progress on this? Because naturally there is attrition, and it's a double-edged sword. It means, number one, that they're getting confident, they're getting independence, they're getting all of those skills that we're trying to bestow upon them through this, and they're feeling confident enough to go out on their own, but they're not seeing it through to completion. So a little bit of hope and support from the consultants can be really, really supportive in seeing the final numbers be close to the registered numbers of students.
Yeah, and in my experience, and I'd be curious if anyone else has experimented with this type of like external support, is that usually I ask for students to opt in. It's not an automatic opt-in. It's like you have to explain it to them and show them what the value is of it, and then hopefully that will also help support it. Claire, come on. And then the other kind of question on that is, would we be able to see like their answers or their evidence that they show? Or are you able to share that with, if they're affiliated with a counselor? Can you do that?
Yeah, so we could do that. It will become public as soon as they receive the badge, so that anybody can see those answers. If you're looking for a report, we'd have to go through some privacy pieces, because when they agree to participate in the award, their agreement is with GYA or CanGap in terms of privacy. So to have a third party looped into that, like prior to things becoming public in the badge, we'd have to look at what are the little check boxes or signatures or whatnot would have to fall there. But the technological capability is there to do that. We just have to kind of massage it a little bit to make sure that we're not outing anybody or passing on information we shouldn't be.
I have a question, Michelle. Thank you so much. It's been so exciting learning about this and hearing about this, and so getting some of the details and hearing your perspective is awesome. So I know there's been ongoing conversations for decades about communicating the value of the gap year experiences to employers and colleges, career and college readiness. Is that part of what this is supposed to be? And do you have any evidence or any conversations about how that's being received? I'm familiar with the Duke of Edinburgh Award being recognized by employers, but in the UK, gap years in general are recognized by employers. So just wanted any thoughts you had around that, because I think in the United States, where we have, every state has different career and employability standards, and conversations are going on all the time, just figuring out how this fits in to opportunities in those conversations. Is a real opportunity, and so your perspective would be really helpful, I think.
Yeah. So there's certain within the digital badge world, there are certain frameworks that exist. And so what we're going to do is each of those badges are going to be mapped onto some of those career frameworks or those universal skill frameworks that exist out there. And so people can look at that once they receive a badge, they can see where it plots into this universal standard. Universal is like a very general term because nothing is universal, but they have some frameworks that are trying to be pushed to be a little bit more universal. So we'll have that as an option. Within Canada, I've had some really interesting conversations with post-secondary institutions. So there are some that are providing scholarships based on the award. So that therefore is then increasing the value of the award and making sure that the students are seeing that it is a continuation into something. I also have a grant in for using it as a retention tool for post-secondary. So for students who have been asked to withdraw due to academic performance, but we know the students who withdraw because of academic performance, 90% of them are not dumb. They just have something else going on in their life. And so this acts as like a retention tool. We hold them for a year and then we bring them back to the institution. So we're starting to see a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, we're starting to see uptake within the post-secondary sphere of being able to validate some of those things. And then those employability frameworks are going to be the other tool for that. So we're still very much in the early adopter phase when it comes to badging, when it comes to universal frameworks, when it comes to gap years as a whole. So nothing is going to happen overnight, and there are going to be some some growing pains as we get this going, but it's exciting to be at the beginning stages of that, which means we will get to a place where it will be able to plot a little bit more directly.
Right, thank you. And that whole universal skill framework piece in particular, I know that there are some programs who are talking about if there is such a thing, how do we identify and integrate that potentially into our plans and curriculum. And I know in the United States, there are 3 or 4 which are emerging predominant in different aspects and even fitting into state standards and requirements. So as you identify exactly what those universal skill frameworks are, Ethan, not want to speak for, but that if we can maybe provide feedback about how those may resonate and complement and fit into the bigger picture possibly here as well. And again, as I said, I'd hate to see this isolated if there's an opportunity for broader linkages to really bring things together. So programs can use it practically and different kinds of things like that. I know a couple of programs I've talked to have been very excited about this as a potential, but they want to know what it's going to be anchored on. So anyway, thanks again. Didn't mean to take up so much time.
No, that's great. And if you wanted to send me the frameworks that you have seen that are emerging, that will be helpful. I'll see if they map to any of the ones that are emerging in the digital badge space. And then we can maybe hedge our bets when we are making those alignments. And nothing is set in stone. In the world of digital, we can switch and we can adapt as new information becomes available. But if we're able to be intentional and hedge our bets, then let's do that the first time.
Sure, absolutely. Be glad to. And I'm sure we have your email someplace. So, okay, great. Thanks.
And just sort of one quick mention, just because Ray will never toot her own horn. So Ray's sort of majority of her professional work for the last decade or two has been in sort of workforce skills development and training. And so if there's someone who has an opinion that I would value sort of to add to what we've created so far, what you've created so far, it would be Ray's. So just wanted to raise that.
Michelle, I do have a question as well. This is just fantastic, and I'm really excited about what you're putting out here. My question, it just goes back to when you talked about the endorsement of the badge and how other organizations can hop on board or get kind of their name associated or affiliated with the badge. So what has that looked like, or what will it look like? What kind of organizations are you seeing that will endorse it? Post-secondary or other programs, or so just a question about that.
Yeah, so there are no real guidelines right now as to what is and is not appropriate, because we're in a very, very dynamic space. I'm of the opinion the more names and endorsements we can get on there, the greater value it's going to have for the award itself, but also for the people who are endorsing it. So part of the value of the reflections is that we can get programs named in the reflection component, so that when employers start seeing that, I don't know, I'm just going to pick one out of thin air, Dragons keeps popping up on these incredible employees, we can start to gain some credibility for the different programs. Or if all of Vanessa's clients, because you're named in those reflections, are showing up, then maybe there's something to be said about her particular support that she's providing. So we can start to see that in the reflection component. And then with the endorsements, where there's the most value is through educational institutions and employers. That's where it really has the most value. So if IBM was to jump on and say that the I don't know, the project management badge this is a skill we see a need for in students, and we know that this particular badge meets those criteria, so we'll stand behind people who have this badge. That's where we can see the maximum impact of it. The goal is to get as many people on board with the largest badge, with the actual award, because that's what we're hoping people are going to showcase. The other ones are the mini badges that level up into the award. So while they have all of those skills named, it's more of a tool for the individual to help articulate the skills that they've acquired. And then the overall badge is the one that we're hoping is going to have the most value, credibility, recognition out of all the other ones.
One thing, great answer there. Good questions, by the way. One thing that has come up in the Duke of Edinburgh conversations has been sort of, and granted, that's a much more sort of mature version of what we're deving out, but they've created sort of partnerships with certain programs so that, for instance, Outward Bound Costa Rica, any student who completed an Outward Bound Costa Rica program would automatically qualify for sort of these 2 of the micro badges or whatever that is, based on a sort of a pre-approval process. And then the theory is that then that adds value to their students, and then they're also promoting the award more publicly to greater effect across the spectrum. So I think that's a direction Michelle and I have talked about going. Obviously, it's not there yet, but sort of following, drafting on the heels of what the Duke of Edinburgh has done so successfully. Another question for you, Michelle, is would it be possible or appropriate for accredited consultants, A, to be mentors for their own students? Mm-hmm. And B, would it be possible potentially downstream even, and maybe this is sort of partially the scaling question, to have sort of the consultants be sort of verifying, submission details for their own students at some point? I understand that there'd be some potentials for conflict there, right? But at the same time, in terms of a scaling process, that might make some good sense downstream.
Yeah, I think there's nothing that would say that you couldn't be a mentor for your student. The question I would have you ask yourself is, are you giving them the tools to find mentors down the road? And that's really what this program is set out to do, is building their skill set to be able to take all of these skills beyond their gap year. So by having a built-in mentor, and this is one of the things that I grappled with in the design, was finding a mentor can be challenging, but that's part of the learning that happens, is how do you actually find somebody? How do you identify what type of mentor you need? And then how do you go out and find them? Whereas when there's one built right into the system, you can have that mentorship experience, but lacking that initiation phase. And without initiation, nothing happens. So there's nothing to say that you couldn't serve as that mentor, but you may want to ask yourself, what skills is that then depriving the student of when they get out into the real world? And then in terms of the evaluation, I think perhaps we will need a team of evaluators. So similar to the accreditation process for like the GYA accredited programs, I think we will probably stick away from evaluating your own students, because there is lots of bias and lots of emotional connection to those students. But we may have a team of consultants that are approved to act as the approval team and the people that can verify those submissions. Great questions.
I have another question as well. I'm curious about at what point a student will register for this. Is it before their gap year? Is it during? If I were to have a student this summer who had just learned about it 3 weeks into our program, how would they go about registering?
Yeah, so it's rolling registration. They can come on board at any time. There is no start and end date. It's not like it's a 12-month membership that you come in and you get booted out 12 months later. They can come in as soon as they're thinking about taking a gap year. They can come in halfway through their gap year. We're also creating a portal for people who are gap year alum, that they can be grandfathered into the certification. So if you've got folks that are finishing their gap year right now that might like to earn that, we would consider them alum. So the criteria has to change slightly, because they may not have completed a UN Sustainable Development Goal project per se, and that's unfair to ask somebody to retroactively create a gap year project. But we will have questions that verify that they're aware of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and that they could connect what some of their gifts and talents are with something that they have done at some point in their life to address one of those issues. So even out the back end, if they find out super late, there will be a portal, a self-serve portal with variations on the questions for each of the pillars in order to earn that final award.
Okay, great.
Other questions or comments or feedback? Like I said, everything is a very dynamic space, and we want this to be as strong as possible. So your feedback and your comments are always welcome. In some cases, we'll be able to do something about it. In some cases, we can't. But this is a passion project, but it's also for the betterment of the GAP community. So I know we're all on the same page when it comes to that. So please don't hesitate to provide that critical feedback so that we can continue to strengthen this, make it more accessible, make it more engaging, make it something that more people will choose to sign up for and complete in the long run. So that's really the goal, and any feedback is more than welcome.
I love what you've built, Michelle. I think it looks, the design of it, the sort of the graphics aspect of it, which we all know matters quite a lot, especially for youth. Even the fact that it's on Discord, which I have no familiarity with, but I just know sort of like the cardinal rule, right? Meet them where they're at, and that's where they're hanging out, you know, at least for this generation, and you know, we'll pivot to the next one for the next generation. But I just think it's very brilliantly conceived and very nicely executed. I can't wait to get some more experience under our belts, you know?
Ethan, I have to agree. I like when you had that first conversation saying, you know, I spent 10 years of my life giving out certificates at the end of a program, and I can just see students like, you know, some might hang them, some might frame them, but the vast majority of them, you know, I think this is it's modern, it's great, it's needed. Really cool.
Ethan and Vanessa beat me to it, but I think Ethan, I was going to comment too on just the clean lines of everything. That's, I don't know if I'm saying that figuratively or literally, but it is very clean. It looks super professional. I love the badging of it all. And I think it's going to, yeah, I think it's going to take off.
I echo their sentiments as well, and think it's just a phenomenal idea to have a more formalized way for the student themselves and for the rest of the world to see, hey, this is a really great option and really does produce great results for students. So thank you.
Any other questions for Michelle or comments, Michelle? Anything to add? Yeah, great.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for spending part of your afternoon or morning with me, depending on where you are. I think we're all in afternoon. It's been such a pleasure to see all of your wonderful faces again. It just lights me up in a very dark COVID time to see you're all still alive and kicking. Oh, Jason, good question. So we are going to have a website up and live. I can share. I think it's in this tab here. Let's see. Oh my gosh, the icon is in the way. There we go. So this is what the framework of the website would look like. So you get an initial pop-up to say where are you based, and that will direct the back end to the proper pricing structure, all of that. And then this is what the website looks like. So you can take a peek, all sorts of stuff. And then choosing the DIY or the enhanced support and some FAQs. So it will be at gapyearcert.com. If you wanted to take a peek at the kind of sketched out version of what it looks like, gapyearcert.com/temp2. But don't click on anything because it doesn't work yet. But it is going to be up and running in the next week or so. Everything should be laid out. There's just some challenges with making sure that we're paying in the proper currency and all of those adventures with back-end stuff. But it should be ready in the next week or so, and we will send something out once everything is formalized and good to go. And at the same time, we'll be launching the alum portal as well. So for those who are for Gappers for this year that want to be grandfathered in, we will have that live and ready to go at the same time. Before you lose all of your students from this year to summer plans, we'll try and squeak this in before they disappear.
I just found I'm like, if this is a good fit for you, or it's not a good fit if, and I'm chuckling at some of your language. It's clever. I like it.
It's a little more youthful than formal.
Cool.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Michelle, for taking the time with us today. I think we're all really thrilled to see where this is going to go. I will say, let's start plugging this in the member meetings, and we'll figure out ways to launch it. And Michelle, you and I can be in touch in other ways too around the conference. And I'm thinking about gap yearly students, other partnerships we can build with direct student programs. So.
I can promote it on the GYA blog as well.
Yeah, I got your emails. I'm just a little underwater. I got my snorkel out right now.
Well,
I haven't got the scuba equipment yet, but the snorkel is out. So
thank you for taking the time to put this presentation together, Michelle. I know it's these presentations are catalyzing there. It's a deadline to get it all together, and it's a great presentation. Thank you.
well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Have a great day, everyone.
Take care, everybody.